Welcome to podcast number 4, where we are interviewing the most successful entrepreneurs on the planet. And today we have a special guest coming from Covina, California. And she is someone pretty amazing. She is going to be sharing us her story, how she is so great. She is a manager of a Berkshire Hathaway office, as well as an incredible realtor, selling tons of houses, and doing things differently, doing things better, having the most amazing systems. And she's going to show you exactly how she does it. And today our special guest is Nicolle Davis.
I'm blushing already, and we've only just begun.
It's quite an honor to have her here. She's an incredible woman, entrepreneur, and I'm so excited to hear your story.
Thank you for having me. I'm not kidding. It's an honor.
Thank you
It
so
really
much.
is. But what can I say? We learn from the best, and we have an obligation to perform based on what we know.
Absolutely.
So I followed you, Dusty, and watched your progression, and it's pretty amazing. We talked a little bit about lights, camera, action, and where that all started with a 4-year-old camera. Just this idea of picking up what's natural, what's light, what's good, and running with it is just, I gravitate towards it.
Yeah.
And I thank you. I had to share. I see your talent, and
Thank you.
I'm impressed and honored. And thanks for having me out.
Thank you so much. It's all about improving as you go along, and we just make it better every time. And that's what this podcast is all about, doing things bigger and better, and that's why you're here,
Thank you.
because you do things bigger and better.
I've been accused of that, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Nicolle, I know you have a big background doing some Fortune 500 accounting companies. You even went to school to become a horse trainer and some sort of other stuff involved with that too. I don't know fully. You even work with doing some of the I can't even remember now. It was so impressive that I forgot. But you were doing ad work for some other company as well too, for BlackBerry.
Yeah.
And it's just incredible, and I'm looking forward to hearing your story. So can you first tell me a little bit about what you did before real estate, your background, not involving real estate at all?
Many of us kind of come to real estate without having the foresight of choosing it, and
Yeah.
I had that same road. I am from generations of family business, so arriving here was not really a surprise, although some of the details are very amazing to myself. You mentioned the horse trainer. I left a small farming town and went to school to be a horse trainer. I went to Cal Poly Pomona. They were the best horse training school around. So
I didn't know that.
top 2, I think, in the country. And
Wow.
so I had to go there. And I met my husband and fell in love, and quickly found out that horse training was
That's not for you.
too much math again, and the science was just too scientific. And although I'm very accustomed to life is on the line, and this is something I didn't share previously, my family business was funeral directors and mortuary business, and so I'm very familiar with life is always on the line with everything you do, and your actions are a vocation. But at the same time, I just horse training, and the idea was to lacking the personal. As a horse trainer, you have to live on the road basically, and your friends are animals, and I'm a people person. So science, math, no people. It just wasn't the right
you.
mix. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still always a passion, and it's still always available, and a beautiful vocation in itself. I'm very passionate about animals. I did want to plug the Pause for Pet. Our team has taken on an event at Bonelli Park on the 15th of May. So it's Pause for Pet. It's a pet walk. It's a fundraiser.
That sounds amazing.
And it'll be a lot of fun. But that's the vocations and thing. That's for a beautiful life, of rewards as you're honoring your vocation. So horse training turned into English and foreign languages. And out of college, I started working for anesthesiologists doing timing, and it was a group of 80 anesthesiologists, and quickly got over the math hurdle. And life and death is still at play, and numbers count. And from there, I went to work for a very small startup. I went to school at Cal Poly Pomona, and Claremont was a close jump. My husband grew up in Claremont, and the Claremont, schools are there. It's very rich in education. A group of Harvey Mudd graduates solicited me to come and be their marketing director, and they were just starting out. They were the first company to write software for the BlackBerry. So that evolved in the tech years, from a startup to doing Wall Street Journal ads, and throwing singular parties in Las Vegas, and just really getting to know business, who's spending on technology, information, and data in such a comfortable, cubby of growth in a really neat era. So I picked up a lot of golden gems that I carry with me from those years. That's how I could pick up on the your lights and your not Photoshop, much more modern tools, but that's knowing what goes on behind the scene to have a precise image at a precise moment. The same with real estate or any business, to be able to be precisely what's needed to move the ball forward is that exact snapshot that used all those tools. So from there, I was laid off. I was the tech industry. Really had funds cut off as the market changed, and from there I had decided, okay, I had my first son. He's now 17. And
captain of the football team, right?
Captain of the football team for the Claremont Wolfpack.
That's amazing.
And I'm very proud. I don't know if you could tell.
I can tell.
And so from there, I was definitely looking for security.
Yeah.
And I jumped basically to the company that owns more land than the government, and has so many arms. At that time, mortgage was one of them, but Weyerhaeuser, the old timers, my grandfather and my father did work for Weyerhaeuser. They pronounced it Weyerhaeuser then, that old German name. But when I jumped, I was jumping for security. They were such a stable company, and at a point in history where I was able to have health benefits for my family for $17 a month, including my kids and my parents. They were just such a good, stable company.
Which was important to you at the time.
At that time, that was the right decision for the rest of life. And of course, in those moments, we can't see the road ahead. So I worked there. I started in lumber sales. I was hired, at the spur of the moment to be the inside sales assistant to the #1 sales agent in the country. And that was out of Fontana. And I learned the, rail structure. I learned how to build a truck. I learned how to sell, truckloads of lumber, for basically for a sales contest, to see who would win the most pies at the end of the day.
Was that your first sales job?
That was my first sale. That's a lie. No, my first sales job was avoiding answering phones at the mortuary on the weekend. So the second I was 15 and a half and could get that work permit, I went to a telemarketing job. I was selling newspapers at the only 3-story building in town, and was so proud to go earn my first paychecks, selling newspapers with a bunch of curmudgeons smoking cigarettes in a boiler room. And that really did give me my drive and understanding for get your name on that board, girl, get your name, find out who you can help, because somebody needs that newspaper. Somebody needs that information. Somebody needs some help.
It was the foundation of who you are today.
It's been a beautiful road. I got to share that.
I'm looking forward to hearing that story some more. And so all of that led you into being obviously who you are today, build those foundations made you disciplined in everything that you do today? Because I know you do business differently. You are very structured, very organized, and you have systems in place that just prevails you for predicting your income and moving forward, right? And but so, after all that, I know none of that really had to do much with residential real estate, did it?
Right, right. The building industry layoff led to, I found out I was having twins about 2 weeks before the 2008
Yeah.
layoffs.
Wow.
And so I knew we were having twins. I told him that before we got married, and he didn't believe me, but I knew we were having twins. And I did not realize that it meant I would not work for 5 years until they
Really?
went to kindergarten. It just did not register with me.
It was its own job in itself.
Absolutely. I knew how important it was. I knew how blessed I was, but I did not realize I was interviewing, weeks before I had the twins,
Yeah.
thinking, and I did not realize the impact that, and how great that market shift was. After they were born, the market just didn't come back, and the jobs weren't there. It wasn't worth the sacrifice for me to try to go back to work. So when they were in kindergarten, before they were in kindergarten, as I'm getting my license, the prompt for getting my license was my mom. There was a loophole at the time to use your bachelor's to get the broker's
The broker's
license.
license, yep.
And I was blessed. My parents have a number of units, and my mom offered the opportunity to be property manager to me as a way to keep the twins underfoot for that extra
That
year
extra
that
time,
we
yep.
needed. And so I did go get the broker's license, and I quickly found out property management in Ventura at the time was not the right solution to keep my twins in private school. It just
Yeah.
wasn't going to work. So I opened my eyes through that process to residential real estate, and I came back to Claremont, and I found Bruce Mulhearn, and I found California Properties, really searching for what this road was really going to look like, and a
Yep.
little bit of the analytical forecasting. I could quickly identify in my small town that there were not enough numbers for me to make a dent or feed the twins.
Yeah.
And I am very blessed. My husband is academia, and but he was wanting to go back to the classroom. He was wanting to focus more on individual class time instead of the salary.
Got it.
So it just made sense that my town was not going to be it. I needed bigger resources. I needed much more exposure and much more independence than was possible. And I did selectively look for my broker and for my shop, knowing the terrain and knowing the possibilities, knowing the independence possible.
Well, that's amazing. So the video just got cut off for a second. We're back again with Nicolle Davis, and she was just telling us how she got into residential real estate, and it's quite an interesting story, and it's pretty amazing, you guys. So you found a new broker, you started over a new career as residential real estate. Did you start off selling first, or you went straight into becoming a broker and selling, having people under you, or what did you do? What was your beginning?
As I was getting the license, I did do a little intern, and it was taking a manual property management broker, taking his handwrite systems to an automated system.
Okay.
So he had more than 100 units or so, and so I got a little bit of a snapshot, but it was more like an internship. It was just enough for me to know that property management wasn't going to be enough margins for my end game. And so then went straight into residential. I didn't understand the difference between broker broker and agent. I got the broker's agent knowing that at some point I wanted to go back to my hometown and, and have more responsibility. But I didn't really understand the differences. I understood it was more testing, I understood it was more requirements, more liability,
Yep.
more responsibility. But I didn't really set out to put that broker license to use. Starting with property management and realizing numbers aren't there, it was okay. Well, then it has to be producing agent.
Got it. Okay. That's pretty interesting. So, with all that said, do you have to have something that you do now that being now into being into real estate, selling houses and being a manager, but from your background, you learned everything. But what do you use now that makes your daily routine? Like, what do you do daily that makes you so successful?
We hear a lot of things across business. You mentioned Grant Cardone, and there are these business coaches out there who aren't really specific to real estate, but they are. The same business principles as, have a certain set, start time, have a schedule ahead, look at what you're doing, the day before. Those were a little bit intuitive, but if you're not in the game for
Yeah.
yourself, it takes a little while to put all those pieces
Yeah.
together. So, I did start with like a podcast. I listened to Tim and Julie Harris on Blog Talk Radio,
Yep.
and they reference all the real estate gods, Howard Britton, and, we just had our speaker at the quarterly breakfast was Tommy Hopkins. And so when you start to hear these references as you're trying to propel your own vocation forward, then things start to really click. It probably, with the twins and only having 4 hours a day, and my location in Covina, I knew that I could do open houses weekday.
Yeah.
We have enough population, but putting it together, you've got to have a start plan. You've got to have 20 people to call, before you sit down to make the calls. Otherwise, that's going to take you an hour to gather your call list.
Yeah.
Those ideas, it's been over time where you perfect all that, and I don't.
Didn't start off that way. No.
Definitely not, and it's not at a perfect state. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing when you have had the opportunity to know our former broker Bruce Mulhearn. When you know that it takes many years, 50 years, sometimes many years, many more years than I'll be able to give to have a perfect, seamless snapshot of your business. I know it'll take me forever to perfect the
You could
daily
always
schedule.
improve something. There's always different ways
Yeah.
of changing everything. So, but with that said, you have developed something now, though. Let's jump forward to today.
Mhm.
So you're the type of person that runs off of systems, correct?
I love systems. I'm not, surprisingly, I'm not terribly disciplined. That's my nature. But I have learned that my survival requires more discipline.
Yes.
So I do force myself to do, I force myself to carry my calendar around me and stare at it, every half hour. It's not natural.
No, it's not.
I force myself to have the call list ahead of time. I force myself every single time I hang up, and it right now it feels like a flaw because I know where it has to go. When you have stories and you have resources as widely as we do, to hear that Vic Kuros has sat with Alan Dom, and the call is supposed to go seamlessly for 4 hours on the 15-minute mark where calls are passed into you. My system is far from that, but I know that that's the ideal at the 50-year mark. But one of my flaws is I feel from the old call center days, I skipped one job in there. I was telemarketing call center manager. And I got very used to inputting, as many words as I could into the call
Collecting
notes.
data.
So I use Realty Juggler. It's just a cheaper version of RealVolve, and
Yeah.
I've gone through all of them, and I know I don't need bells and whistles right now. I know I just need consistent discipline to get what I need in there. So as I hang up, I want to make sure that I capture everything. It feels a little bit like a flaw because I can't execute those 25 calls in the 15 minutes that I want it to take. It really does take me the full hour. Um, but it's extremely imperative for me right now to remember Kay's name,
Yeah.
to remember all the data that I can pull that's going to give me that connection for that really tough moment when you got to call a seller and explain that, a listing agent, or I'm sorry, a buyer's agent just lost the key, and don't worry about it. I've got, an extra key, because that's my systems. I take 4 copies of the keys every time, and I've got them in my office, and I'm going to run right out there. But I want you to know, if that might come back in the feedback for the showing that is going to be 10 minutes late because I'm still running the second key out there. And you might find the key in the carpet because the agent said they lost it inside the house. So to be prepared for that snap moment, you have to do the things that take the extra time now.
Yes, I agree 100%. So basically, all this came from probably trial and error over the years.
Yeah,
So maybe someone lost a key and then you didn't have any keys left or something that made you do 4 keys now, which
absolutely.
is smart. Always being prepared for every situation. I think I do that too. Not everything, but I try to always be prepared for everything I do, which I see that's what you do too, and that's probably what makes you
It's
so
the
great.
attempt, but it'll take me forever.
And with that, is there something that you do to keep in touch? Because let's say you meet a client or meet a lead at an open house or something out in the world, and they tell you they want to buy in a year or two. How do you stay in touch? What is your system to follow up with them? Because obviously they don't want to do something right now, so you might forget in a year. It's all in that data that you're taking notes, right?
I've had many through trial and error where I didn't make the connection soon enough. So like from an open house, from any lead, there are a couple things that I do before I'll do anything else, before I close shop, basically, before at the open house, before the 4 o'clock mark hits and I shut my laptop down. I know that I'm on mom the second I step in my car. So I know that before I shut my laptop down, I've got to send the thank you. I've got to get them into my Realty Juggler, and I've got to set up an auto searcher. I've got to set some systems up that are going to happen a little more automatically. So I always do those first critical steps before I'll shut down. We work for a phenomenal, brokerage, and Berkshire has a lot of tools. So I've really dug in on the drips. And so I do use the drip system that's available to us many times without really thinking about messaging. Having marketing background, one of my weaknesses is I really want to study the message. I really want to personalize and craft the message every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I won't hit all my marks if I really do that. If I know they're not going to do anything for a year and they really just need to see my name flash in front of them, if
Just
I
a little
really,
touch.
yeah, I'm still perfecting. Don't hold on to it. You have to send it out to let it grow.
Absolutely. So that's part of your marketing strategy is put them on that drip system, let them see your touch. But how do you bring in new business?
I following the Tim and Julie Harris and these trusted systems before us. I focus on trying to have 7 different prospecting methods. So I do open houses regularly, and I focus on a pretty wide geography. I do the farmers market in downtown West Covina. I have a lot of direct mail that goes into the lakes, which are luxury apartments.
Yep.
And they happen to be right in front of the farmers market. So those are kind of like 2 stones for one. they're seeing my message. That's where I'm giving out Gabby's bags, and they're seeing a give, they're seeing consistency, and then they're seeing it in multiple layers through, and I focus my open houses around there.
Yeah.
And then
So they constantly see you everywhere they're going.
yeah, it's that idea of how you can be in your panorama, in three different places at the same snapshot. Yeah.
You bringing up that panoramic picture, just so that listeners know, I have a picture on my desk of myself in 3 different locations, and Nicolle and I were talking about it earlier, and just the fact that you brought it up right now just shows that you've been listening, you
It's
observe
pretty
everything,
cool.
and I could see how that could be towards your advantage dealing with customers, clients, and just that little extra touch, the little effort that you put in, it shows, and that's probably why you're so successful, I believe.
Thank
Right.
you. Thank you.
And so, Nicolle, it's been amazing having you here. I have one last question before we open it to the audience, and it's just about you, you yourself. Like, what do you think it is in your mind, the way that you were raised, or your background, whatever it is that makes you who you are today? Is it your mindset, and all of that?
I think it's the Catholic idea that that what you do, that your life is supposed to be a vocation. At the end, I'm supposed to put all of my works on the top of the altar and hope and pray that it amounts to something worthwhile. And I look for that in every moment. I look for how this is going to help someone else's vocation, how this action is going to amount to so much more. So I think that's really what it is. Then when you couple that vocation with a bigger dream, what those bigger dreams are, my bigger dreams are tied to homeless and education, and tying the two together. And when you just accept your burden, your vocation, and try to make it something good, it's that idea that that really gets us through every single tough conversation. Because when I sit with recruits, when I sit with new agents who really just only have the glimmer in their eye of how beautiful the Maserati is going to look in their driveway, I have to tell them the reality. At the same time, I have to let them know that they're now my vocation to bring them along. But let's be real. Let's get really committed, and let's make sure it's the right thing to do. So I think it's really just having those natural tendencies to get in touch with how to make this moment more valuable for that final moment.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Nicolle. You have been an amazing guest. Your story is so interesting, and it just shows how hard of a worker you are. Just everything that you put into, all the thought that goes into it. It's incredible. So thank you so much, Nicolle.
Thank you.
So this has been podcast number 4 here at Property Cousins HQ. We're about to open the questions to the audience. So we're going to pass around the microphone just to see what people have questions for Nicolle Davis, because she's so amazing.
So my question is, because I know part of being an entrepreneur, it's also managing as you do, and as I'm starting to do here as well. So when you're talking about hiring and new agents and all of that, what are the qualities that you're looking for that work for you in your office, that you're like, okay, this is what we stand for. That's why we're hiring this person.
On recruiting criteria, I'm relatively new at it too. It's been maybe 6 months, and so I'm perfecting what that glimmer is, and how to determine when it's going to amount to more. But I focus on the commitment to the word, because it does all start with a word, and then it turns into actions. So that's where I focus. And then coupled with the glimmer, coupled with some practical realism, and then motivation. It's almost like the same things we would do to pre-qualify a buyer or a seller. We know that when the CMA says, when the comparable report says 800,000 and they're talking $1 million, we know that there's a discord somewhere, and we're going to have to be able to get over that discord together in order to make anything work. So it's looking at motivation. I look strongly at motivation. It's looking at the pie in the sky, square in the face, and sharing with it, that it's going to look a little more realistic, like this. this. And I share with recruits, I didn't close my first transaction until after a year after I had my license, after a year of trying
Wow.
4 hours a day. So it's going to take that determination. It's going to take that kind of focus,
Patience.
and the patience, and really being able to absorb and process that much of putting your hope out there and not seeing the return. So endurance, but it's exactly the same thing as looking at a prospect in any business. It's just being able to put it all together.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have another question coming in.
Hi, Nicolle. I do have a question for you. Since the last transactions, I do have some problems with the listing agents. The problem is, when I was trained in a process manner, but the other agents doesn't feel like that. So she criticized me about when I'm doing the transaction, this is unorthodox manner. So I'm not sure what did I do wrong in order to coordinate with the listing agent. This is my dilemma because I thought I did everything right. How come when I do it this way and then the listing agent says I'm not doing the right way? It seems like I'm not going along with her or him.
I like that one a lot because it touches on something that I didn't get to bring up, and it's something that I use all the time. It's something that our broker supports and offers a lot of education on. My husband, he teaches organizational leadership and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and the language around that is something that I use a lot. So when I've had a little bit of discord, and this is with other agents on the other side, it's with it's even internal with my team, it's even with clients and prospects. Anytime there is like that no shutdown, I look very closely at the yeses and the nos. It's something about having twins. I turn everything into a binary. For the first 3 years, everything was, it's either a fire or it can wait. So I do that. I turn everything into a binary. It's either yes or it's no. It's either fire or it can wait. And so in that case, when I've got the no shutdown, I go straight to my softening, and I'm going to use my NLP, and I'm going to say, anything that starts with, I'm just curious, that just immediately softens I'm going to tell you something you don't want at the end of this. And so I would go straight to one of my softening questions. I'm curious, was there, and then you want to not use the open-ended where it can just end in another no. You want to just open it up to a yes, like, I'll think about this. Yes, I'll give you something. So with that, in that scenario, I would just go straight to, I'm curious, was there anything you think that I could have done better? Were there any examples you could have given me that would support that? And, I just try to break everything down into, okay, we got the no shut down. How can I open it up over to a yes, now we're talking? So I would encourage you to look at NLP and like practice little tricks with kids, with anybody who gives you the no, with the parking attendant at the, anywhere there's a no, just practice that NLP stuff so you can open it up. And then you'll get really good at opening up the no and finding out what you need to find out where the yeses are.
Wow.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the advice. Yeah.
Hello, Nicolle.
Hi, Kate.
I'm interested in your drip system, and a couple of things. How often, and what system are you using that you found most successful?
How often? Those are things I still play with. Where the tools come from, through our brokerage. We have on the resource center. We do actually have a lot of great drips. We've got a lot of different topics. So you have the seller considering on the fence for a year, to where you can do, one a week. They do offer timelines. Honestly, I don't think about that stuff. I just for those drips. The drips are for my C category, type clients. So you have your A's where it seems like they're going to do something in the first 30 days, where you can tell something's going to take off quick, and you'll know really quickly whether this is an A or not. You have your B's, which are 30 to 60, 90 days out, where okay, this is going to take the certain standard prep, but it's probably going somewhere quick. There's some motivation there. Something is going to happen. And then the C category is who knows, but I want to stay in there. And so I don't think about the timeline. There are a lot of automatic things in there. Our drips, there are probably 15 to 20 good drips in there, and they're on multiple topics. And so I will just set those up. I'll take a look at those once a month. And then when I see that people have dropped off, I'll let it sit. I'll put them on a hot list, call them up again, and then I'll put them on another drip. So I'm trying to always gather information in between each break. Okay, are they really in the C category? Are they starting to move up to a B? And then we're going to do, okay, then maybe they need to come off of a drip, and maybe that needs to be. I don't ever let anyone go. My database is, scary large from gathering names and numbers for, a few years. And then it's my burden to just weed through them and figure them out and figure if they just need more drip or if they need more attention.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Nicolle. That's amazing. So we have one last question coming from one of our other audience members. And so let me turn the mic over to her.
Hi, Nicolle. My name's Brittany, and I have a question. As a semi-new agent, do you think it's imperative to have a coach or mentor, or maybe a coach more specifically? And when do you think is a good time to actually make that move to hire one or work with one? Someone who has not a tight budget, but money's not really, not coming in, but I'd be conscious about that.
It's a very, very good question.
Mm-hmm.
With any investment that we make in our business, we do want to be very cautious. Our time is finite, and with one wrong move, it could be very, very costly, and it's going to be a hurdle to recover from if it's not the right move. So I completely understand where that's coming from. As a mom of twins, I have that dilemma at every turn. And I think in those terms at every turn, and any business owner should think in those terms. We want to do healthy experiments. I'm very blessed. I've been exposed to, through my Covina office, we have a mentor program. So we bring new agents in with a mentor, and I've taken advantage of that and absolutely loved every part of that. It was worth every penny. It's an investment of both parties. And if we think of all of our business choices as investments on both parties, whether it's, a marketer who wants to do all my social media marketing, whether it's ads, whether it's hardline systems and tools into technology, or no matter what it is, coaching, I look at it very much the same. It's an investment of both parties. And I have gone through coaching, and I do recommend it highly, and I have great names and resources for you. I was brought in under the model in Covina under, under promise, over deliver. And we want to really spend as little as possible, because it is an investment of a career to move forward in real estate. And so we don't want to have this be a waste at the end. we want to make absolutely sure that it's not a waste, that it's not a zero balance at the end. It has to be enriching for all in order to endure this and in order to really propel our clients forward and really care about their legacy, their real estate legacy, along with their family through families' lives, through generations. So, every decision from the small paperclip decision, or should I get the binders, all the way to coaching, which is a major investment, should be evaluated in the same light. You'll know when you're ready. It would be my guidance. And my guidance would also be build the relationships that are fostering you as much at the same time, so that you can do small investments, small experiments of whether you benefit from it or not, or whether it is a waste. So, I started with every free phone call from every coach out, telemarkets every agent with a new license.
Yeah.
And that was enough information for me to realize, ooh, they do know more than me. They really do have something to offer.
They can help.
They've been here. So I coach with Debbie DeGroat. My coach is Victor Vaca, and to realize that he's coached large mortgage corporations who have lots of commercial time still today, and he developed systems for them. He can get me a little farther than I can get myself. To realize that if I'm not doing the homework, if I'm not putting the investment of listening, it's going to be for waste, or that free phone call with the with the telemarketing, I'll give you, let's put together your business plan. If I'm not going to do anything with it, it's not going to be worth anything. So we have to be willing to invest as much time and energy into making it work and doing the homework as we do the dollars in making the sacrifice right now. But at the same time, my Covina mentor model, we have the resources right around us in the relationships that we already have. Most of my business was about 60% open house, and I didn't realize until my second, third year, I didn't think I was going to have the topic of referral or sphere of influence. I didn't grow up here. I don't really know anybody. Yeah. But surprisingly, 35% of my business last year was a sphere of influence and referrals. So those are aspects that, there are aspects that by just tracking, you might be able to figure out without some heavy duty coaching. Mm-hmm. You might be able to figure some of those hurdles out and how to jump over them by just really tapping into what's already around you, your peers, your colleagues. We have a very collaborative spirit in our office, mm-hmm. and you can walk in the door and hear agents talking about how they overcame that hurdle yesterday in that transaction. And when you are in the right environment, you're going to know it. When you find the right coach, you're going to know it. When you find the right tool, you're going to just be so jazzed to invest in it. Mm-hmm. And you just want to make sure there's small increments so that you're testing them out.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that.
Sure. I'm excited for you. I can't wait.
Thank you so much, Nicolle Davis, and to our audience here for your amazing questions to Nicolle. It has been quite an honor. One last thing, Nicolle. Is there anything that you want to leave the audience with, some little tip that would just change their lives?
That's a big burden too. Oh, good Lord. I can't emphasize how everything is a prayer. Like every person I meet is a prayer. It's been a true honor to sit with you, Dusty, and the awesome live team with great questions. It just enhances where we're all going together. I love the idea of the podcast of taking something real today, just being open and organic enough to share it, but still having the professional touch of we're going somewhere major with focusing on entrepreneurialism. I love the moment in California and in the country really where we can make this entrepreneurial spirit so easily accessible to those that want it. I'll end on a prayer note that we keep that focus together and help all the families we can help through real estate.
Thank you so much, Nicolle. You have been amazing. This has been podcast number 4 here at Property Cousin HQ. Make sure to subscribe. Look for us on all platforms. We're available on YouTube as well, too, if you want to watch this video. Facebook, Instagram, and I'll also tag Nicolle as well, too, so you can make sure to follow her. So thanks so much.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're very good at what you do. This is awesome.